Thank you for staying with us. You are watching TVC Breakfast, and let's talk some more about the passing of Mohbad, where September the 12th was a dark day for his family, friends, and the fans of Ilerioluwa Oladimeji Aloba, popularly known as Mohbad. And as of today, many street protests and processions have been held in honor of the late singer, with many seeking justice for the maltreatment, the bullying and harassment endured by Mohbad from members of his former record label, Marlian Records. And his tragic death has caused many Nigerians to question the relationship between record labels and their artists. Nigerians are now interested in what goes on in these record labels in terms of the kind of contracts and agreements that the young artists are made to sign. Joining us now in the studio is the CEO of the Musical Copyright Society of Nigeria Limited, Mayowa, Ayilara. It's good to have you join us again on the show. And here we are. This is a rather unpalatable news, but it's something that we must, talk about. And I wonder what your thoughts are. Let us start off this way with your thoughts are on the tragic death of Mohbad.
Yeah. Thank you. A very good morning to you. It's really very sad to lose such a young and budding talent like Mohbad. It's a disturbing case, and my sympathy or our sympathy goes to the family. And indeed, Nigeria has lost another upcoming talent that will have joined the ranks of Burna Boy, Whiskies, and Davido, and all the rest. To have lost him at such a young age is really sad. It's really unpalatable.
Yeah, and I see that Nigerians are really, expressing their, their grievances, their anger, as well as their solidarity, for Mohbad. How have you been reading the reactions from the Nigerian people so far?
Yeah, it's natural to have such a reaction from the populace, because when such a young person is lost under such a confusing condition, people are bound to fly with emotions. But we have to also caution ourselves, because the facts are still hidden. Nobody can really, say specifically what actually transpired. And thank God the investigative machineries are on, trying to unravel what really happened and how the young man died. So with that in process, one will be very careful in what one will say in order not to prejudice the investigation. So as it is, there is not much one can really say concerning how the guy, died and what surrounded his demise. But for now, let us leave it for the investigators to do their job.
All right. And of course, as we have been saying, the police authorities are being enjoined to continue to give needed information during the course of their investigation into Mr. Aloba's death. But this death has also opened up a lot of controversies within the music industry, especially what people call the largely unregulated murky waters of the relationship between record labels and their artists. And you have been in the system for so long. I know before I met you, I seem to have known you, in your capacity as the head of the MCSN. When it comes to record labels and the relationship with their artists, especially young ones, or you can even say generally, I wonder is there a norm, or is it unregulated as people from the outside see it?
Well, it is not that it's a loose cannon, as we want to paint it, but it is an age-long tradition, this kind of cat and mouse relationship between artists and record label. It has been there for long, because I can remember in the 70s, Fela Anikulapo Kuti started a kind of war with Decca Aphrodisia when they went to block their gate with loads of sheets. And it is because of this kind of relationship. And what we have discovered along the line is that the kind of contracts that the record label pushed to the artists are kind of slavish, a kind of oppressive contracts. And when such happens and the artists come to realize that he has been ripped off, then the problem starts. But one cannot really blame the record labels. The artist who has never been recorded before wants to be recorded. He wants his voice to be heard. He wants to blow. And the record company too is putting in money to invest. He's taking a risk. He can put millions on an artist, and at the end of the day, the album may not sell up to 100 pieces. So the record label will want to prepare a contract that will favor him. But at the same time, when you look at the contract, it is very oppressive. For example, they will sign an artist for maybe 5 years. And during those 5 years, they will say, okay, we will pay you royalties, maybe in kobo, while the album is sold in 10 naira and so on and so forth. Suddenly, the album blows. Everybody likes the album is heard all over the world, and the artist is being invited to shows, to concerts, and so on. Then suddenly the artists wake up. That, come off it, why is this man paying me 5 kobo out of 10 naira as royalties? And another thing is that the cost of promoting the album and everything is also heaped on the artists. So I remember in 1987, the first battle that we had to fight was with the Nigerian chapter of the International Federation of Phonograph Producers, IFPI, Nigeria National Chapter. Because there are a lot of things that were happening in Nigeria that abuses the rights of not only the artist, but the rights of the composer, the author, and the publisher of the works. So the record company will want to take over the work and also the performances of the artists without paying royalties that are due for the works, the artists, and the sound recording. So all these were modeled up. And we came and said, hey, we must do this thing rightly. Give the composer, the author their due, irrespective of the fact that the artist may be the one who composed the work, who wrote the lyrics, but performed the work. So you pay him in 3-dimensional ways. So this led to a kind of struggle between us and the record labels then. We said, no, you can still control your rights. For example, they will give an artist a contract to perform and to record the work. Inside the same contract, they will corner the copyright in the works and the performances. And the artist is left in the lodge. So all these are the reasons why the relationship between the artists and the record labels are not going smoothly.
The relationship between record labels and artists, this in the fallout of the death of Mohbad on September the 12th, and so many issues have arisen. How healthy is this relationship, and what should it be like in the future? And with us to put these things into their proper perspective is the CEO of the Musical Copyright Society of Nigeria Limited, Mayowa, Ayilara. It's good to have you stay on with us on the program.
Thank you,
Ibrahim.
Right, so when we started, you took us back the memory lane as regard that of Fela and his own record label, where he packed, heap of shit on the gate of, So that I found that quite laughable. And there is another one which I would like you to talk about, which is the King Sunny Ade, the misunderstanding between himself and Abioro in the 70s. You know,
Yes.
You've been there back in the day. So whoever knows King Sunny Ade knows Abioro, just like father and son relationship. So what could have gone wrong between the father and son?
Yes, first, today is September 22, which happens to be the birthday of King Sunny Ade.
Wow.
So I'm taking this opportunity to wish him a very happy
fantastic.
birthday.
To the minister himself, congratulations, KSA.
Congratulations to him.
It is the issue of royalty payable to King Sunny Ade. Abioro was paying King Sunny Ade 5 kobo per album. And at a point, KSA said, as a father, you need to increase because I have contributed so much into this. So, but Abioro refused and said, contract is contract.
Agreement is agreement.
The agreement is agreement.
In Wike's voice.
Meanwhile, his contemporaries, that's Ebenezer Obey and others, they were earning 70 kobo and above in other labels. So this was not really acceptable to King Sunny Ade, and he was trying to settle it in a kind of family way. That is a family issue. I can appeal to Abioro to play game, but Abioro refused, insisting on the agreement. Invariably, the whole thing degenerated into going to court. And the judgment of that case at least recognized the sanctity of the contract, at the same time noted the oppression, the oppressive angle to the contract. So invariably, Sunny Ade was released from that contract. And from there, Sunny Ade came out with his own label. And along the line, when the knowledge became more wider, more known, Sunny Ade hit back to get his rights back. Because African Songs Limited thought that they owned the rights to all the works of Sunny Ade released under African Songs label. But the contract has since lapsed. And those works and the copyright need to revert to Sunny Ade. But African Songs Limited did not want to release the rights or the works, including the masters. So King Sunny Ade went to court. Again now, to sue African Songs Limited and TYC, Take Your Choice Records. So at the court of first instance, that's the Federal High Court, he got judgment. And I think he was given 500 million naira damages. In addition, that all his works, tapes, and everything be returned to him. African Songs appealed. At the appeal, the judgment also favored King Sunny Ade because they affirmed the judgment of the court. So at the point, they were to settle. But the latest I heard now is that TYC has gone to the Supreme Court, not wanting to settle again. But since it is a case still before the court, I will not, go into that so much. But the fact remains that the contract under which this job was made, the contract has lapsed. The act that gave them that right gave a limitation. That is the term that copyright can subsist. That is in a sound recording. As at that time, it was 20 years after the first release. But under the present act, it has gone up to 50 years. So the issue is that the man has his works back. And we still have some other cases pending before the courts, and which will most likely follow this trend. A lot of cases now where old artists are trying and fighting the record labels to have back their master tapes, pay them the due royalties, because most of them, they will not even get statement of accounts of the royalties they earn. I would not really blame the labor. The men are the helm of affairs. The question is that, how deep are they in this business? How knowledgeable are they? They are only looking at the money, but they are not looking at the processes. Because in the days of EMI, we do not have so much noise between artists like artists such as Sonny Okosun's.
Was Oritwiliki there?
Yes, Oritwiliki was not on EMI. Lady of Songs.
Okay, Evie Edna. No, Christy
Ese. So there wasn't any of this kind of brouhaha between the artists then and companies like EMI.
But these are age-long issues.
Yes.
In the industry.
In the industry. Right. But these companies, the intensity, they are different in their approaches. Some companies treat the artists very well. That's why I mentioned EMI, for example. EMI is a structured organization. The record label is different from the publishing arm. Actually, the record label is paying the publishing arm the due royalties for the works they use,
right,
which is also spread among the composers, artists, and so on.
Right.
The same thing with, I think, Sony Music then. All of them were doing the work based on the model they inherited or they took from their parent company in the UK or in the US.
So professionalism is key.
It's a key.
Is key. So that is what seems to be missing in this present generation of artist management. Yes. But what about the issue of regulation? Do these artists, especially the young ones, because there seems to be a trend that the younger you are, the better for them, for the music labels, because out there people are saying that these people are just being exploited. And you've also used the word slavish, that they are just being exploited. Is there a place for young artists generally to run to?
Yes. Yes, like I said recently, or maybe I've said
even before you want to escalate it to the courts, yes. Is there like MCSN?
Yes, number one is that the artist, when they are eager, when they are hungry to be heard, to be recorded, they are deaf to reason. They will not even listen to any advice. All they are after is that I want to blow. Even when we run to them, call them, come, before you put pen to paper, try to do this to safeguard your works and so on. Even their managers are not helping them. Many of them claim to have artist managers. Many of the artist managers are just glorified errand boys. They do not know their left from their right. So how can they then properly advise their words? We have been speaking with so many of these managers. You need to, first of all, register the works of your artist, register your artist before you expose them to the vagaries of the industry, but they would not listen. We have our men outside trying to locate them, we wrote, we called, we do everything. The man is not around. When he comes, we will tell him, where you call again? I'm busy now, we will come back to you. It has been the case. But when this issue comes, then there is problem. Now, look at this Mohbad issue. I read that there is argument about whether his rights are safeguarded or not. The question is, did Mohbad himself register the work as is required? Did he register with a collecting society that will look after his interests? Even if that took him away, whatever comes from his work should go to his assist, to his mother, to his wife, to his children. But are those things in place? And these are the kind of things we try to enlighten them about. But initially they don't. Even the ones that are there now, many of them do not bother. Nigeria is the biggest market available to them. But they are focusing Europe, they are focusing America. But their own market, they ignore them. When they start to grow old, this is a good example that I want to say here. In the year 1986, many of Nigerians had hitherto been members of foreign societies, particularly the Performing Rights Society of Britain. But most of these artists are no longer popular. Their works are no longer selling. What PRS did then was to terminate their membership from their list. And luckily, MCSN has come to be. So they now advise them, oh yeah, go and join your home society. After sucking the juice of the orange, it's like they threw the shaft away. And we are telling these young artists, come, face your own country, develop what is yours, so that your rights, your future, and everything is protected, is secured. But this is still what we are trying to, educate them about. So it's really a sad story, but then we are working hard to correct the situation.
It shows there's a whole lot of work and a whole lot of, sensitization needs to be done.
Yes.
Up and coming artists.
Yes.
Even though, just like you said, you've used the word, they just want to blow. They just want to blow, even if it means blowing out of proportion.
Yes.
Right. So what minimum number of years do you think a record deal should last between the record label and the artist?
Well, it depends on the relationship. We can't set a time limit. If I enjoy the relationship between my label, I can stay on till death do us part. But whereby I said, okay, I want to work with you for 5 years, and we sign an agreement for 5 years. Then, inside the same agreement, you hid another clause that whatever we did under that 5 years, you own it perpetually, or you own it in perpetuity. That is wrong.
How did they do that? I think they should have a counsel, is a lawyer,
Lawyers, right,
who definitely peruse this document
protect their
before they
reading,
you understand?
the
so that it doesn't
contract
sound
before
like the one we have in the cigarettes, the Federal Ministry of Health warns that
Warning
smokers
that-
are liable to die on.
Yeah.
You hardly are able to see some of these terms.
Yes, the artists, like I told you, when they want, all they want is to be released, to be recorded and released. They don't go with lawyers. But the labels, they have their own lawyers who have helped them to prepare this model
to
contract.
favor them.
Yes. So once they push any paper to the artist, he's eager, he signs.
So they amplify the one that is glamorous for them.
Yes.
And then they hide what is, just like the bait and switch offer.
Well, that is how it looks. But the reality is that the artist is like when you give a bait
And you take
on
it.
on a trap for the rat. The rat will only be seeing the bait. It won't see the danger behind the bait. So once the bite, to come out will become difficult. So, of course, there was, I can remember one label that didn't have so much problem with his artists, which he groomed, and other labels took them away. There wasn't any noise that followed. I can think of, I think Kenny's Music. He groomed quite a lot of young artists.
Yeah.
He popularized the modern day hip hop and so on. But now he has been pushed aside. Now we have all, everybody now has his own label.
Right.
The professionalism, is it there?
Right.
That is the question.
So what's the liability of these record labels? What is MCSN doing about that, to sanitize the system? You've spoken about reaching out to the young artists themselves. What is your drive towards the record labels, or rather, what is their liability now or responsibility to your association?
Yes, what we are saying to them is that you cannot sign a recording agreement with an artist and use the same agreement to corner the copyright in the works, because the works is independent of the artist. Of course, the artist will come to your to your studio to perform the works, but the work is a ready product that is existing on its own. So he only brings the work, put his performances on it, you bring in your machine, you record. So you create the sound recording, and whatever proceeds you have is from the sound recording. And you compensate the owner of the works for whatever you record. So these are the things we have been able to arrange. So for the past works, where all the rights have been taken, we have said, okay, as it is, you want to claim copyright in it, we'll go 50-50 maximum. 50 to the artist, 50 to the record label. And I think that seems acceptable to them, while the artists now have become more and more educated and informed about their rights.
Does MCSN compel these record labels, or are you restricted somehow in compelling record labels to do the needful?
We can't compel them in doing this business. But with education, the artist will be able to stand his ground. The artist now will be able to go with a lawyer to negotiate this, because they are now armed with adequate information. And thank God most of this information are available online, readily available online. And where the contract becomes oppressive, the courts are there to proclaim on it. Just like they did in the case of King Sunny Ade, because Abioro then was asking for, I think, 30 million or whatever. It was given maybe about 30,000 naira then or what, to release King Sunny Ade. So this is how the wrongs have been righted. And we believe that gradually the artists will continue to be wiser as we go along. The rush to be blown, to get popular, to get recorded, the rush will now be cautioned somehow.
That's
At least the Mohbad case has really brought out this awareness. Yes.
Talking about the Mohbad case, a lot of people have actually blamed the Marlian records, for a whole lot of things, whether a lot of allegations have gone with it, some that have not been able to be clearly established.
Yes.
But we also read that there was a time Mohbad was trying to shoot his music, and then
video,
allegedly they went there with cutlass to disrupt the flow and all of that. But what do you think Marlian Records should have done differently after the demise of Mohbad? Or let's say after, maybe whether there was a termination, and then even after the demise of Mohbad that has now sparked a lot of protests?
Well, I think if there had been severance of relationship, what Marlian Records ought to have done is to just let go. There shouldn't have been anything connecting Marlian Records. I'm not saying there is anything connecting them, but if there is, there shouldn't have been anything connecting them with Mohbad after the severance, if actually there was a severance. That's one thing. But the most important thing is to look for the contract, if there is a contract between the parties, and look at the terms of the contract. That is the only thing that I can say one should do under these circumstances. Otherwise, people will be talking out of emotions, reacting out of sentiments, and so on. People who do not even have any iota of information about what actually happened will build their own story in order to get a culprit out of this thing. So, like I said earlier on, the thing is being investigated, and I believe the agencies are capable enough to unravel all aspects of this sordid affair.
All right, Mr. Mayowa, Ayilara, that would be a fine place to leave it at. This point now, the authorities are on the issue, and we hope that there will be more clarity in the coming days, and very important, the issue of sanity to the system. But so many takeaways from you, the issue of awareness and information on the parts of the artists generally. This must also be stressed, and the issue of employing professionals, lawyers, to aid your growth as a musician.
And they too, going to establishments like the CMOs,
Absolutely.
that's MCSN, if they are not sure, approach the Nigerian Copyright
Right.
Commission
To protect their
rights.
interests.
Even the Copyright Commission can now come up with a template. I think even there is a regulation in place about recording and all this.
The conversation continues, and Mr. Mayowa Ayilara will, you know, I guess you are there on grounds to address one-on-one concerns. CEO, Musical Copyright Association, Society of Nigeria, MCSN. Thank you very much for your time with us. And that's how we wrap up the show this morning, TVC Breakfast. Before we go, we must let you know that the views and reactions of all our resource persons are theirs and have no connection at all with TVC News. And we thank you very much on behalf of the crew for joining us on the program this morning. What a week it's been, and another ride. Of course, you know, it continues tomorrow, TVC Breakfast Saturday, and TVC Breakfast Saturday, and of course, later on the week begins ahead.
Most definitely.
All right, and what a week it's been for you. I know we'll be missing you next week.
It's been an exciting ride. It's been an exciting ride, and you know the fact that you know we were together, you know, for a few weeks, and then while Veronica was in Malaysia, and then she came back, and then we continued throughout the week and had very beautiful conversations to have with our varied guests and all of that.
All right. Okay, Ibrahim Shita, a quick one just before we go now. The police still on the issue of Mohbad and the procession that occurred on the island, around Lagos Island on Thursday. The police command in Lagos State has reacted, saying it is fully aware of false narratives making the rounds in relation to the dispersal of crowds at the Lekki toll gate on Thursday, and says that it had agreed with the organizers that the procession was to end at 8 p.m. and should terminate at Muri Okola. It was clearly stated for avoidance of doubts that in interest of all Lagosians, the Lekki toll gate would be a no-go area. And so the CP, that's Commissioner of Police, has now warned mischief makers that any group of persons found disturbing the peace of the state under whatever guise would be promptly arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Well, that's the much we can take now. Thank you very much for keeping us company on TVC Breakfast, and bye for now.